Letter 16. A platter of baklava from Gaziantep. To Gul Eka Hanım Efendi. Dear Lady Mary, in those letters describing your visits to harem ladies, you not only provided us with rich details about daily life and insights into the character of women, but you also gave us a glimpse of the world-famous Turkish hospitality. You can rest assured, Lady Mary, that things have not changed much since you were received into those Turkish homes. Turkey may no longer be ruled by sultans, and the clouds seen from your para window are now poked with skyscrapers. But that gracious Turkish hospitality is intact and flourishing. Turkish hospitality is world-famous and justly merits the acclaim it receives. I have long tried to understand why this country is perhaps the most hospitable on earth, and I believe that there are several reasons. The first, perhaps, is due to the nomadic origins of the Turks, which may raise in them a natural empathy for travelers. The Seljuk Sultans established a system of caravanserais, offering free room and board to traveling merchants for 3 days at the state's expense. The Ottomans continued this tradition by building elaborate programs of soup kitchens to disperse food to people in need. Like the unspoken bond of sailors at sea, a traveler is never left unattended or in potential danger. The second reason stems from the Islamic culture. Hospitality is a common characteristic of Muslims around the world. In principle, every Muslim is called upon to fulfill obligations to others as witness to their service to Allah. It is part and parcel of the Muslim golden rule of life, which is to encourage good and shun evil. For Turks, this service to Allah takes the form of a hospitality that beats as naturally as their hearts. This very simple concept is the basis of the communal way of life that all Turks share with each other, and their need to guide, lead, and protect each other. The Prophet said, "Eat together and not separately, for the blessing is associated with the company." The old Turkish phrase for an unexpected guest reflects their philosophy, Tanrı misafiri, a visitor from God. As a result, they offer a hospitality to travelers that asks nothing in return, with families judging themselves by their generosity to guests when they entertain. As the famous world traveler Ibn Battuta wrote in 1330 about his welcome by members of the AHBÂR-I religious sect, in Anatolia, nowhere in the world will you find young men so eager to welcome strangers, so prompt to serve food and to satisfy the wants of others. Perhaps this last reason is their own very specific Turkish take on the Muslim golden rule, summed up in their oft-cited proverb, "What you give away, you keep." Yet whatever reason motivates it, Turkish hospitality is warm and overwhelming in its bounty of gestures, gifts, food, love, and kindness, all carried out in gentleness, originality, discretion, and heartfelt sincerity. This compassion puts you immediately at ease. When I read your letters, Lady Mary, I sense that you felt this gentleness as well, and it is perhaps what inspired your generous tone in the comments you put in your letters. You were not ill at ease there as a foreigner. You were comfortable, and you let cross-cultural confrontations flow over you like water. When I am in Turkey, I am touched by a hospitality high point at least once daily. It may be a gesture so discreet that you do not even know it is happening, or it can be a complex one that astonishes you with its emotional dimension. Anatolia means land of the mother sun, and it seems as if each Turk absorbs a part of that mother sun and radiates it back to the world. All visitors receive it, but I have been fortunate enough, like you, to experience it in a deeper way than most tourists. Turkish hospitality is extended not just to foreigners or strangers, but becomes a natural way of life among themselves. In speech, they repeatedly use the expression buyurun, a catch-all word magnificent in its simplicity, covering a broad range of meanings, from please, here you are, help yourself, this way please, be my guest, after you. It fits every situation, and just their engaging way of saying it, always with a smile and an extended hand gesture, is a little gift in and of itself. I have already spoken to you about the hospitality that my adopted family extends to me. Yet every day on the street, hospitality is offered in modest ways, like a cup of coffee served on a golden platter, a door opened automatically, or the most ubiquitous of them all, a glass of tea. Turks will never let you pay for anything, or even cover your own way. They take mortal offense when you offer to pay, and you must certainly never offer to pay in front of a man. His masculine honor and his honor as a Turkish host would be extremely insulted. Turkish hospitality usually centers on food and tea. You must accept everything offered to you, and they will not let up until you do. In our culture, when you ask someone if he would like something, the one-time yes or no of the guest is taken as the final arbitration. Not here, where the question is asked a minimum of 3 times. For Turks are convinced you are shy or afraid to say yes the first time around. You described those 50 dishes served to you, Lady Mary, and I can attest that an elaborate spread is always presented to a guest. From fresh-picked garden plums to handmade kebabs, manta, and ichli kofta. I once had an entire 2-foot diameter platter of the world-famous Gaziantep pistachio baklava sent via a special delivery courier on a bus from there to Kayseri, some 150 miles away, for my delight at dinner. The simplest way Turks extend their hospitality is by those tiny tulip glasses of hot ruby red tea. With each sip, you have time to savor all the warmth and sweetness of this people. It is a small investment gesture with a large return reward. It slows everything down to a human pace, from checking into a hotel to enjoying the greenery of a public park. The tea gesture is found everywhere you go, in shops after a purchase, at a quick drop-in visit to a friend's house. Etiquette demands the consummation of 3 glasses. In the drugstore, when you go in simply to buy aspirin to ease a headache, the photo shop, and of course, numerous times during the lengthy negotiations to buy a carpet. It becomes an act of protocol for doing business. With each tinkle of the spoon against the side of the glass, a friendship begins and deepens. The most elaborate show of hospitality is being received as a guest in a Turkish home. An experience something akin to a 3-ring circus, with the entire family and neighbors involved in assuring your comfort. They will give you the best bed in the house, orient their entire schedules around you, and act as if they have nothing else in the world to do except take care of you. They are curious to learn about you, such as how you tie your shoes and salt your food, and you must be ready to be scrutinized thoroughly in everything you do. Once I was received in the Izmir home of the parents of a Turkish friend of mine in New York. Nothing was left unattended, with the hostess scurrying about nonstop to fuss over my comfort. As I was eating dinner on the balcony, I leaned against the railing, and when I tried to pull away, I realized that I had somehow become stuck to it. I tried to hide my predicament as discreetly as possible, and finally, at one moment during a change of plates, I was able to yank myself free and saw that the whole side of my dress was covered in white paint. Later that evening, before going to sleep, I tried to open the window to my bedroom to no avail, for it was solidly stuck tight. I tried, and then noticed that my hands were covered in white paint. It was only then that it dawned on me. This yet-to-dry paint was witness to the fact that the family had painted the entire apartment in preparation of my visit, in the time from the phone call 2 days earlier announcing my arrival until that very morning. While visiting my Kayseri family, an entire post-dinner party was organized to meet me, with a dozen neighbors being invited over to chat, drink tea, eat fruit and nuts, and enjoy the cool of the evening. All these people came to make me feel welcome, and I felt a bit like a sultan receiving homage from ambassadors like your husband, Lady Mary. Towards the end of the evening, one of the guests, Muzaffar, took the floor, and everyone became quiet. He started to speak very slowly and simply, so I could understand. Lady Kadria, we thank you for coming to visit us. We are happy to have met you. We await you again next year, and only this time we want you to bring along your husband. We hope that your trip will go smoothly and safely. May God bless you. With that, everyone stood up, kissed me, and left. No ambassador to the Sultan Ahmed's court was ever more gracious or elegant. Turks still act as if you are in their home, even when you are outside of it. Once in a restaurant in Effian, an entire party of about 20 people came in for a family celebration, and seeing me there, invited me to join their group for the evening. One is extended the same type of honored guest hospitality in offices and places of business. A place of business is nothing more than an extended home, and when you enter it, the same rules of artful living apply. I spoke to you about how I had once been commandeered on a Han visit into the office of the mayor of Azin Bazaar. When I arrived at that concrete municipal building overlooking the square, I was duly escorted by his assistant up the stairs to his second-floor office, past framed color-photocopied portraits of all the Ottoman sultans, and the famous Seljuk ones as well. We paused for a moment in front of the glassed-in display case, the Shahid Kuseshi War Memorial. It displayed the black and white photographs of the local soldier boys lost in the recent clashes with the PKK terrorists. A huge golden bust of Ataturk, and big vase of red flowers. A simplicity as poignant as the Vietnam Veterans Monument in Washington, D.C. Arriving in his office, I found a place of business that certainly did not resemble the ones we know in the West. This one had a desk more impressive in size than any French minister's, complete with blotter, pen holder, telephone set, the mayor's name and title on a big gold plaque, a spread of the daily newspapers, and a set of 3 Turkish flags in a little stand. There was more, 2 couches and 6 armchairs, cut crystal ashtrays, a huge color flat-screen television, bookshelves, computer, a dining table with 8 chairs, a 3-dimensional portrait of Ataturk, as well as framed pictures of mountain scenes on the wall, vases of flowers, and 3 cages of chirping yellow canaries. I was received with greater pomp than you were on your harem visits, Lady Mary, I can assure you. The mayor started an animated conversation that lasted over 3 hours. He madly rustled around to find papers on his desk and bookshelves, wildly pulling things out from his drawers and files. He called in his assistant and dumped a stack of this material, crop reports, local statistics, and articles on the Han, in his hands, and asked him to make photocopies for me. A huge wall air conditioner was turned on with a flourish from the remote control on his desk. Tea, soda water, and Coca-Cola appeared, all together, for me, and the mayor was served a Turkish coffee. We viewed a DVD of the local public circumcision festival that had taken place a few weeks earlier on the square in front of the Han, and then he asked his assistant to burn me a copy to take home. I then spotted on the bookcase a specially commissioned modern Iznik plate with his portrait and the Han in the background. I emboldened myself to ask where I could purchase one of these treasures, and as quick as a flash, the beleaguered assistant was called in to wrap it up for me to take home. In my workday, I can barely find time to squeeze in 10 minutes for unexpected visitors. And here, he had taken over 3 hours with me, sending me off full of liquids, documentation, and gifts. Travel affords Turks boundless ways to show creativity in their hospitality. As a foreigner and a lady, every effort is made to arrange the whole busload of passengers so that I can be assigned the coveted seat number 1, right behind the driver. When you check into a hotel, there is always bowing and a posse of bellboys to seize your luggage. I have been taken in charge personally by the skipper of a boat for a guided tour of Van's Octomar Island, and in Amasya, a man told me that I was waiting in the wrong place for the jitney to the Azine Bazaar. How did he know where I was going? And grabbed me by the hand to escort me a half-mile away to the correct place. An owner of a terrace restaurant in Antalya, now unfortunately long gone, sent over ice cream and crème de menthe as an apology for the rowdy people sitting at the next table. The female entertainers that sing in restaurants always make it a point to go around and greet every table, pausing a while at my table to say hello, learn my name, and make me feel like a special guest to the performance. In the small village pilaf lunch spots, you are often given food you did not order just because they are so excited to have a foreign visitor in their modest establishment. In Bayezid, the cab driver I hired to take me to the ruins of Kubadadabad stopped every 5 minutes to pluck me different kinds of fruit from the rich groves surrounding the lake: apples, pears, peaches, plums, cherries, and mulberries. Later that evening, he invited me to the lakeside park to watch the sunset over the lake and drink tea with his family. Some of the greatest displays of hospitality come from the Turks, who are just plain proud to show off their historically rich country to foreigners. It is one way of saying how happy I am to be a Turk. It is the man in Edirne who has moved his workshop to the back of the 1609 Ahmet Ahmet Pasha Kervansaray and took me on a personal guided tour of the Han. It is the bent-over old man with a cane in the Seljuk cemetery of Gavash who hobbled around with me to make sure I saw the tomb of Halim Hatun, a Kuroko Yunlu Hanım Efendi, or honored lady of the Black Sheep Turks. It took place in Niksar on a visit to Ulu Kami, whose imam then escorted me up to the citadel as my own personal guide, spending the entire afternoon with me. He told me he did it because no foreigners come in to visit his mosque, and for that reason he considered that I was somehow sent from God and needed to be entrusted to him. It is the 2-hour private guided tour by the director of the Gevhar Madrasa in Kayseri, who made me sign the guest book. It is the old men sitting comfortably on the square of the dusty village of Hortu in front of the tiny monument honoring the birthplace of the folktale hero Nasruddin Hoca, but who move so that I may take a photograph of it. It is the men in the grocery market across from the Seljuk Mosque in Birgi who pull out the largest iron key I have ever seen to open its door for me so that I could see its original carved wooden shutters and pulpit. In Sivas, one late afternoon, I took a cab to visit the tomb of Sheh Hassan, and afterwards the cab driver discreetly asked if he could take me somewhere. "I know a place that I think you will like a lot," he timidly offered. Usually one should be wary of such propositions, but since this is Turkey, I had no fear. He then proceeded to take me out to see the Irli Köprü, the distinctive one-lane, L-shaped bent bridge, still solidly standing over the Kızılırmak River, despite the major earthquakes of 1939 and 1942 that destroyed virtually everything else in the area. The photograph I took of the bridge in that sunset moment, summing up the kindness which allowed me to discover one of the finest Seljuk bridges in Turkey, sits on my desk today. One of my greatest fears, Lady Mary, is that Turkish hospitality will disappear. I worry that the onslaught of foreigners now pouring into Turkey will erode the infinite patience of the Turkish people and erase their feeling that these often disrespectful people are a divine gift from God. Yet when I think of how this hospitality shown to visitors has endured so strongly since Ibn Batutta's words in 1330 and your experiences in 1718, I suppose my fears are ungrounded. All I need to do is remember freshly painted rooms and platters of baklava sent from Gaziantep to put my fears at rest. Yes, yes, and forever yes, I would love another glass of tea. Sincerely yours, Kadria Branning.